Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Sammy. So my last video got some attention, and the thing that stuck with me the most wasn't the views. It was how many of you were describing completely different currency situations. Some of you swimming in the vines, some of you nowhere close, and both of you were right. And honestly, that's kind of the whole reason I make these videos. This channel's never just about asking why GGG does what they do. I want you walking away from every single video actually knowing more than you did before you clicked play. Generally better informed, not just entertained for 10 minutes. And I use the term entertained loosely. I want this to feel like a community where we're all just trying to understand this game we love a little better together, not me just talking at you. So today's exactly that. Real information, real strategies, stuff you can actually go use. But I want to take this further than just reading your comments this time too, because comments are great, but they're not the full picture. It's whoever happened to feel strongly enough to actually type something out. So here's exactly what's happening in this video, laid out right now so you know exactly what to expect. First, I'm going to walk you through the 4 real ways players actually make currency in this game, in my opinion, because I think that's the missing piece behind a lot of the disagreement I'm seeing. Then, near the end, I'm going to ask you to fill out an actual survey, real questions about how you personally earn currency and roughly how much. Takes about 5 minutes. The whole point is to find out where the average player in this community actually lands. Not just the loudest comments, not just the 2 extremes. The actual full spread across everyone watching. Once we get enough answers, I'm going to come back with a full results video breaking down exactly what we found. So if you only watch part of this, at least know there's a call to action coming. So please watch the whole video. And for those of you that do, I genuinely appreciate you sticking around for it, because the more of you that answer, the more this data is actually going to be worth something. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the simplest one, because everybody does this whether they mean to or not. And honestly, a lot of you are already living proof of exactly what I'm about to describe. Method 1 of making currency, you just play the game. No specific goal, no strategy, whatever drops. You're doing a campaign, running maps because they're in front of you, picking stuff up because it's there. This is the floor. Everyone gets this income just by existing in the game. Doesn't take any real skill, and it doesn't take a specific time investment beyond just playing normally. And I've seen this exact situation play out in a lot of my comments over and over. One of you told me you stalled out at around Act 3 pretty much every single league, just because that's genuinely all the time you've got some leagues. Another one of you is capped by a hard IRL hour limit and can't even finish the campaign in the window you've got. Another one flat out said the upgrades never felt worth the actual playtime cost and stopped playing entirely. None of these people did anything wrong. They're living entirely inside method 1 because life doesn't leave room for anything else. And that's exactly why this method was never designed to be anyone's main engine. It's what happens by accident while you're doing everything else. If it's your only income source, you're definitely going to feel behind, even though nothing about your play was actually wrong. Okay, so that's the baseline everyone gets. Now, let's get into methods people actually choose on purpose, starting with flipping. Method number 2, the flipper. You're not really farming currency directly. You're buying stuff low and selling it higher, or catching underpriced listings and flipping them for a margin. This one's interesting because it barely cares how much time you have. You don't need 40 hours a week to flip well. You need market knowledge, knowing what's exactly worth what, spotting a mispriced listing before someone else does, understanding demand shifts as the league goes on. And as I did my due diligence and research for this video, I actually went out and found a genuinely detailed breakdown of this from another POE2 creator, Majestic Life. And it's honestly one of the best examples of pure knowledge over time investment I've seen. And for those that are curious in this flipping mode, I'm going to link the video in the description of this video. And believe me, you might want to put some time into watching that video. It is a real good video if you're interested in this flipping mode. Right at league start, before you've even got real currency, there's a trick of running basic orb exchanges through a middle currency instead of trading directly. Buying alks, converting them into regals, then converting them into exalts. Each step only makes a small margin, but as Majestic Life explains, it compounds fast enough that some players are sitting on real capital by the time they're only a few acts in. He also talks about watching for popular early leveling uniques the moment they show up cheap on day one, then reselling them a day later once demand catches up and the price doubles. Now, I do want to be straight with you about a real trade-off here, because even the guy who made the video admits it himself. Doing this well during the campaign means constantly picking up every magic item and above, running back to town to sell, disenchant, or list it over and over instead of just pushing forward through the acts. He straight up calls himself a slow campaign clearer because of it. Sometimes 2 full days. I don't know if I consider that slow, but those are his words. Just to reach endgame, purely from all the back and forth. So flipping isn't totally free of time cost either. It's just a different kind of time cost than juicing or farming. You're trading campaign speed for capital, not trading raw hours for currency the way Method 4 does, and we're going to get into that later. And it doesn't stop at launch either. There's real money in understanding server time zones. Prices actually shift depending on when the biggest player base is asleep versus active. So buying during off hours and selling during peak hours alone can net a real margin with 0 extra playtime once you're actually done leveling. None of this takes hours of grinding, maps, or juicing. That part's true, but it's not free either. It costs you campaign speed up front, and after that, it takes knowing the market better than the person on the other end of the trade. That's the whole method in a nutshell. All right, method number 3. And this is the one I've made a couple of videos about already. Crafting for profit. The crafter. This is where you actually understand crafting well enough to take a cheap base, put currency into it, and sell the results for more than you put in. Then you take that profit and you do it again. Bigger and bigger again, and still bigger. That's the reinvestment loop. And it's actually a topic I've gone deep on before. If you caught my crafting navigator video, this is exactly the system I was arguing the game doesn't really do a great job teaching you well enough. Players who took hundreds of hours before crafting actually clicked for them. Players who feel like trade is easy, but SSF crafting feels like a brick wall with no depth of knowledge to fall back on. And if you watch the burnout video, this is where I made the point that confident crafters got there because they had enough currency bank to fail a bunch of times and learn from it. That's not a skill problem in the sense of not being smart enough. It's that this method genuinely takes both real knowledge and a starting cushion at the same time. You can know everything about crafting and still be stuck if you don't have enough currency to actually risk on the first few crafts. So this method is gated by 2 things at once, which is exactly why it's such a common wall people hit. But I also don't want to make this sound like guaranteed money you're printing once you know what you're doing, because it's not even close. Crafting, as you guys probably already know, is not deterministic. There's a lot of real RNG baked into almost every step of it. And that means even players who genuinely know what they're doing sometimes brick items. You put currency into a base, chase specific sets of modifiers, and sometimes it just doesn't land. The item ends up worse than when you started, completely useless. And even when it doesn't outright brick, there's a real risk of spending more currency chasing the perfect rolls than the item will ever actually sell for. You can absolutely lose money crafting something that looks amazing on paper if the market just doesn't value it as highly as what you put into it. So stack that on top of the learning curve it takes just to understand all the systems in the first place, and this method's got real financial risk sitting on top of real knowledge requirements. It's not all flowers and roses. This is genuinely high risk, high reward, and the risk part never actually goes away just because you've gotten good at it. Okay, last one, and this is the method my whole last video was actually about: juicing and farming. You pick a mechanic, expedition, abyss, breach, whatever, and you build around maximizing it, juicing your maps and tablets to push way more value out of every run. This is the method that scales hardest with raw hours because juicing compounds. More currency in means you can juice harder, which means more currency out, which means you can juice even harder the next time. It's a snowball, and the only way to get the snowball rolling in the first place is playtime. You can be the smartest player in this game and still be capped here if you're only getting a few hours a week, because this method doesn't really care how smart you are. It cares how many reps you've gotten in. If you watched my currency gap video, this is the exact mechanic we spent some time on that video, where two players could have the same build, same map, but have two different outcomes, purely dependent on how juiced their maps were going in. That's the tension I also opened up this video with too, and this is exactly why it happens. You're capped near the floor until you can afford to juice harder, and you can't afford to juice harder until you're already earning more. There's also a real setup cost before you can even start juicing seriously. One of you told me you're 4 weeks deep into SSF and still haven't finished your general Atlas tree because the mechanic specific trees ate all your points first. Without that tree completed, your passive buffs on maps aren't maximized. So every juiced map you run is putting out less than it actually could, no matter how much time you've got. And I saw the flip side too. One of you burned out on trade from inflation, switched to SSF, hoping it'd feel better, and burned out there too, calling it a slog. Juicing and farming is genuinely the most rewarding method in this game once the snowball's rolling, but it's also the one with the highest entry cost in both time and setup of all four. One more thing worth bringing back in here, since rarity's actually one of the stats a lot of you are stacking specifically to juice harder. GGG themselves have said they're not fully happy with how it works. It boosts everything at once, currency, uniques, all of it, with no way to actually dial in on one specific thing you need. So if you're juicing specifically for currency, rarity can help you specialize towards that. It just boosts everything, the whole pile, evenly. Jonathan called that out directly as a real problem and said he wants to remove rarity entirely. They just don't know how to replace it yet. So that's method 4. And honestly, out of all 4 of these, it's the one with the biggest ceiling by far, but also has the steepest cost to get there. Real time and real setup before you even start snowballing. And if I'm being honest, and this is where I'll give you my actual opinion instead of just breaking things down, crafting for profit and juicing and farming methods 3 and 4, in my humble opinion, are both generally high risk, high reward, And out of all the 4 strategies I just went through, those are the 2, in my opinion, that yield the highest returns by far. If you can actually survive the risk and the setup cost to get there. Real quick before we move on, because I don't want to oversimplify this, almost nobody is purely one of these 4. Most of you are probably some blend. Maybe you flip while you're leveling because you don't have currency to craft yet. Then once you've geared, you shift into juicing, or you craft on the side while farming to slowly upgrade your own gear. That's normal. That's actually probably most people. But when I ask you about this in a second, I want you thinking about what your primary method is. The one that's actually doing the heavy lifting for your currency right now, even if it's not the only thing you do. All right, so here's where all of you come in. I can sit here and give you my read on all 4 of these methods, but at the end of the day, that's still just my experience plus a comment section. I want something better than that. I built an active survey, real questions, primary method, hours played, roughly how much you're earning, and I'm going to leave the link in the description and pinned comment. The survey is going to take you approximately 5 minutes. It's a bit more thorough than a quick poll, but that's on purpose. The more detail we get, the better the results video actually is going to be. Here's the deal. I'm going to let this run for a couple of weeks. Then I'm going to come back with an actual results video, real numbers broken down by which method people said was their primary one. So if flippers are actually out earning juicers, or if crafters are stuck behind a wall that data actually proves, we're going to know that for real instead of guessing off whoever happened to comment. One thing I want to be straight about now, so there's no confusion later. This is going to be a survey of my own audience, not the whole POE2 player base. Jesus, I wish I had that kind of pull. That's still useful data though, but it's not a scientific, unbiased sample of every single player out there. And I'll say that again when I show you the results too. So that's the 4 ways this game actually pays you, in my humble opinion. And if there's another one that I have forgotten, oh boy, am I in big trouble, because I created the survey already. But get in the comments section and let me know, ? Just playing, flipping, crafting for profit, and juicing, and now you know which one's actually driving your currency instead of just feeling like you're behind for no reason. Go fill out that survey, please. Links below. Takes about 5 minutes, like I said earlier, and honestly, I want to get ambitious with this one. I'm getting really ambitious here. I'm not trying to scrape together a few hundred responses here. I want thousands and thousands of responses of you in there, filling it out, because the more of you that answer, the more this actually means something when I come back with the results. So if you have a friend, a family member, a guildmate, anyone else who plays this game, send them the link too. Genuinely would mean a lot to me, and to trying to get some analysis on this question and put some meat on the bone. And look, I want to be real with you about what this actually is. This game's averaging hundreds of thousands of players a day. The best player retention league by a long shot. Amazing numbers. Even if I hit my goal and get a couple of thousand responses, that's still a small slice compared to the whole community. I'm not pretending this is some perfect scientific study, but here's my hope with it. 1, even a couple thousand real responses gives us a way better, more decisive read on this whole currency gap conversation than me just reading whatever comments happens to show up. And two, maybe, just maybe, if enough of you answer, it actually starts looking like a real reflection of the broader player base, not just my own audience. I'll be back with the real results once we got enough of you in there. And like always, if there's something else going on in POE2 you want me digging into, drop it in the comments section. I read every single comment. All right, everybody, that's it for today. If you're new here, hit the subscription button, hit that like button too if you got something out of this, and come catch me live every evening on Twitch and YouTube. Links in the description. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really do appreciate it, and we hope to see you on the next one. Take care. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and solely mine. Healthy debate is always encouraged. Hate is never welcomed. So get over it.